How to raise a curious, independent thinker without being their Google. My kid asked if bats are blind. I stopped myself, not because I didn't know, but because I saw what I'd trained him to expect, the answer from me. What if that habit, us giving answers too fast, is quietly killing our kids' curiosity? By the end of this video, you'll learn the one shift that can make your kid a more curious, independent thinker than 95% of adults, without adding anything new to your schedule. This isn't just a technique, it's prep for a future where curiosity is a top 10 skill according to the World Economic Forum, alongside AI fluency and analytical thinking. Here's what most of us do. Our kid asks a question, we answer it, or we Google it, or we wave it off with a not now because we're tired. It seems harmless, right? After all, isn't that our job as parents, to teach them things? But there's an invisible problem hiding in this familiar scene. What we're doing, without realizing it, is building a habit of passivity. We're inadvertently training our kids that the path to knowledge runs through us, not through them. We're rewarding quick answers over deep thinking. A study from UC Davis found that curiosity actually activates reward centers in the brain, the same ones triggered by sugar or winning a game. Think about that. When kids satisfy their curiosity, their brains light up with dopamine, they literally get a natural high from figuring things out. But if we don't nurture that response, if we constantly short-circuit it by jumping straight to answers, those curiosity circuits start to go quiet, and that silence has consequences that extend far beyond childhood. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report. 2025 specifically identifies curiosity and lifelong learning as a fundamental skill projected to grow in importance globally by 2030. Companies aren't just looking for employees who know things. They're desperate for people who know how to learn, adapt, and solve problems nobody's solved before. In other words, the future won't reward kids who know everything, it'll reward the ones who know how to find out. There's a dead simple tool you can use to shift this dynamic starting today. I'll walk you through it in just a minute, but first, we need to kill a common myth. Many parents believe that some kids are just naturally curious while others aren't. My first child asks a million questions, but my second barely asks any. We assume curiosity is hardwired, a personality trait you either have or don't. But that's not what the research shows. Curiosity isn't fixed, it's teachable. Studies on inquiry-based learning demonstrate that when we structure environments that reward questioning over answering, nearly all kids become more inquisitive. As educator Clay P. Bedford put it, you can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you can teach him to learn by creating curiosity, he will continue the learning process as long as he lives. If that learning wick burns out because we're rushing to answer everything for them, we're left with compliant kids who don't know how to think for themselves. Kids who will grow into adults waiting for someone else to solve their problems. So here's the tool, something I call the 3-question curiosity framework. It's ridiculously simple, but it works because it completely flips the dynamic between parent and child. The first question is, what do you notice? So, this question really slows kids down. It helps them, observe carefully before jumping to conclusions. When a child encounters something interesting like a spider web in the backyard, instead of explaining how spiders make webs, just ask what they notice. They'll often begin to see details they overlooked. The uneven strands, the varying stickiness, the pattern of connections. The second question builds on the first. What does that make you wonder? This is where the magic happens. You're shifting them from being a consumer of information to an investigator. Children often respond with questions you might never have thought to address, like, why are some parts sticky and others not? How does the spider know where to connect the strands? The third and final question is, how could we find out more? This is where you build problem solving and agency. Instead of reaching for your phone to Google facts, you're empowering them to think about information-seeking strategies. Kids might suggest watching longer, checking a book, or asking someone who knows about the subject. The beautiful part? You don't need to be an expert on the topic, you just need to know how to ask these 3 simple questions. But what if your kid doesn't engage? What if they roll their eyes or just shrug and say, I don't know? This resistance is completely normal, and actually a good sign. It means they've gotten used to the old pattern where you provide answers, and now you're disrupting that pattern. It's like any habit change. There's going to be some pushback. When they say, I don't know, it's often because they're not used to being asked to think rather than repeat. When they sigh and say, can't you just tell me? That's the sound of a brain that's been trained to take the path of least resistance. Your response should be gentle but firm. I'm interested in what you think first. Or, let's figure it out together. You're not withholding information to be difficult, you're nudging their brain out of autopilot. You're showing them their question matters more than your answer. This isn't about being their teacher, it's about being their thinking partner. Many parents who've used this approach consistently report a fascinating shift. After a few weeks, children often begin to change how they approach questions. They might pause before asking for an answer, saying things like, "Let me think about this first." Some start to verbalize their observations and wonderings without prompting. Educators have observed this pattern too. As children become comfortable with the framework, they begin to internalize it. The questions they ask become deeper and more thoughtful. They start connecting ideas across different subjects and experiences. The real win isn't that they understand complex concepts immediately. It's that they stop waiting for adults to tell them what to think and start trusting their own thinking process. And here's the payoff. If you teach your kid how to ask better questions, you'll never have to be their Google again. You'll be something way more valuable, their guide. In a world where information is everywhere but wisdom is scarce, the most valuable thing we can teach our children isn't what to think, it's how to think. Not what to be curious about, but how to be curious about everything. The 3-question framework gives you a simple way to start that journey today. No special materials needed, no extra time required. Just 3 questions that can transform how your child engages with the world. What do you notice? What does that make you wonder? How could we find out more? So, try it during homework time. Use it on nature walks, apply it when watching shows together, and even during those random car conversations, when they ask why the sky is blue or how planes stay up. Remember, this isn't about creating little geniuses. It's about raising kids who think for themselves, kids who will be ready for a future we can barely imagine, armed with the most future-proof skill of all, the ability to figure things out, no matter what challenges they face. I've created a downloadable cheat sheet with age-specific variations of these questions and examples for different situations. You can grab it in the description below. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe. Next week I'll be tackling how to help your kid follow their curiosity without getting overwhelmed or scattered, because yes, that happens too. Until then, remember, the next time your kid asks you a question, the most powerful response might be a question of your